All right, well, good afternoon, and I'll call to order the Tuesday, May 26, 2026 Clackamas County Budget Committee meeting. And I would ask all of our members to introduce themselves, and I'll start, how about, I'm going to pick on you again, Mr.
I am still Commissioner West.
Wendy Rader, public member.
I'm still Commissioner Diana Helm.
Jeff Keaton, community member.
And Craig Roberts, County Commissioner.
That's Kenny Cernak, community member.
Martha Schrader, County Commissioner.
Jamie Carn, community member.
Paul Savas, Commissioner.
James Rhodes, community member.
All right, and thank you. And our, also here today, Gary, you want to introduce yourself, and Andrew?
Yes, I'm Gary Schmidt, the County Administrator and your Budget Officer.
Andrew, clerk to the board.
And back over to Finance, introduce yourself one more time.
Elizabeth Comfort, Finance Director.
All right, thank you. So I will now open the floor for nominations for the chair. Are there any nominations?
Chair, I'd like to nominate Mr. Kenneth Cernak.
Second.
All right. Mr. Cernak has been nominated, and are there any other nominations? All right, hearing none, the nominations will then be closed, and I will turn to the clerk and ask him to call the poll.
Mr. Keaton,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Mr. Carn,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Ms. Rader,
Aye.
Commissioner Helm,
Aye.
Mr. Rhodes,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Mr. Cernak,
Aye.
Chair Roberts.
Aye.
Motion passes 10-0, Mr. Chair.
All right, and thank you, everyone. I will now turn this over to the elected chair, Mr. Cernak, and to run the meeting. Thank you again for your volunteering to step up. I appreciate it.
All right. All right, I'll now open the floor for nominations for vice chair.
Anybody want it? Is there something? I nominate James Carr to be the vice chair. Just threw that out there.
I'll second.
All right, any other nominations? All right, so James Carn has been nominated. I hear no other nominations. Nominations are closed. Clerk, would you please call the poll?
Mr. Carn,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Mr. Keaton,
Aye.
Ms. Rader,
Aye.
Commissioner Helm,
Aye.
Mr. Rhodes,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Chair Roberts,
Aye.
Chair Cernak.
Aye.
Motion passes 10-0, Mr. Chair.
James Carn is elected vice chair. I'll now open the floor for nominations for secretary.
I nominate Miss Rader.
I'll
Second.
second. You can have it.
No, I don't care.
All right. Wendy Rader has been nominated. Any further nominations? Hearing none, nominations are closed. Kirk, would you please call the poll?
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Mr. Rhodes,
Aye.
Commissioner Helm,
Aye.
Ms. Rader,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Mr. Carn,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Mr. Keaton,
Aye.
Chair Roberts,
Aye.
Chair Cernak.
Aye.
Motion passes 10-0, Mr. Chair.
All right. Wendy Rader is elected as secretary. I'll now open the floor for nominations for the appointment of a citizen member to the audit committee. The current appointee is Wendy Rader, whose term is expiring. The appointment is a 2-year term or until the budget member's term on the committee expires.
Yes, and Mr. Chair, Wendy may have more than one term, so if she wishes to continue, you may continue. You're not termed out if you choose to continue.
Oh. Is anyone desiring this?
The question would be, Wendy, are you still interested in serving?
Certainly.
Wonderful.
Right?
Thank you.
I move to
nominate
reappoint
Wendy Rader.
Wendy Rader.
I'll second that.
All right. Wendy Rader has been nominated. Any further nominations?
It's a popular saying, Miss Wendy.
All right. Hearing none, nominations are closed. Clerk, would you please call the poll?
Mr. Keaton,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Mr. Carn,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Ms. Rader,
Aye.
Commissioner Helm,
Aye.
Mr. Rhodes,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Chair Roberts.
Aye.
Chair Cernak.
Aye.
Motion passes 10-0, Mr. Chair.
All right, Wendy Rader has been appointed to the Audit Committee for a 2-year term or until her Budget Committee term is over, whichever comes first. Our first order of business is approval of the April 21st, 2026 Budget Committee minutes. The minutes have been previously distributed to you. Are there any corrections? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Chair, I move to approve the amendment. I can't talk. Chair, I move to approve the minutes.
I'll second that.
Thanks. It has been moved and seconded that this committee approve the April 21st, 2026 Budget Committee minutes as distributed. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk, would you please call the poll?
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Mr. Rhodes.
Aye.
Commissioner Helm.
Aye.
Ms. Rader.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Sure, why not?
Mr. Karn.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Mr. Caton.
Aye.
Chair Roberts.
Aye.
Chair Cernak.
Aye.
Motion passes 10-0, Mr. Chair.
All right, Gary, please take it away.
Thank you. This is the delivery of the budget message. It's tab 1 in your binder if you'd like to follow along. I'm Gary Schmidt, the County Administrator. I'm also your Budget Officer for Clackamas County and all 8 of its service districts governed by the Board of County Commissioners. The proposed budget for fiscal year 2026-2027 for general county operations is $1,525,689,180, including the 8 county service districts of which the Board of County Commissioners is the governing body. The total Clackamas County proposed budget for fiscal year 2026-2027 is $1,966,903,715. This is $29 million less than last fiscal year, the current fiscal year, which was $73 million less the prior fiscal year. So you can see our budget is slowly going down, which we expected, mainly with the loss or the ending of several pandemic-era funding sources like the CARES Act and ARPA, American Rescue Plan Act. We know those were coming. However, what we did not expect was the loss of several federal and state dollars to counties and cities across the United States where those funding have been reduced or eliminated. That was a bit unexpected, but now that we know it's happening, slowly our amount of revenue is going to be decreasing over time. This proposed budget is balanced as required by Oregon law. It is also structurally sound and sustainable as required by the Board of County Commissioners based on a motion this committee made a year ago. On December 4th, 2025, the Board of County Commissioners adopted County Code Section 2.16 Budget Development. That requires me as your budget officer to present to you a balanced, structurally sound, and sustainable budget. Let me read the definitions. Balanced means the total planned revenues match or exceed expenses each year. Structurally sound means ongoing programs are funded with ongoing revenues and restricts the allocation of one-time revenues to one-time expenditures. Sustainable means a budget that manages finances for short and long-term financial health. Additionally, the code requires that this proposed budget must produce a 30-year financial forecast that is reviewed annually by an external source and that has a positive ending fund balance in year 30. I believe all 4 of those criteria are met in this proposed budget, although you'll tell me otherwise. But staff and I worked very hard to make sure we met the requirements of the county code. Now, how do I propose a budget? Let me tell you, it's based entirely on this document, the Board of County Commissioners Strategic Plan that the board adopted last year. This is my guidepost when I work with departments and offices to present to you a proposed budget. And I'm grateful that I get to sit in on all meetings of the Board of County Commissioners. I listen to you all year long on the things that are important to you as a board, and I use all of that data to help me bring forward to you a proposed budget that I believe reflects your priorities as elected officials of the county. Now, impacts. Of course, the cost of our most valuable resource, our employees, continues to rise. Cost of living, PERS rates, it grows and grows and grows. But without these dedicated employees, we can't provide service to the public that you all expect, that the public expects. But it's a reality. The cost of our employees is our greatest expense as an organization. The uncertainty of federal funding, I've already mentioned, it continues to decline. Sometimes we're not sure when it will decline, although we have a general idea when we think that those dollars will be reduced or eliminated. It has been the policy of the Board of County Commissioners not to backfill ending federal or state programs with general funds. Although the board may choose to do that at any time, in general, our practice is not to backfill with precious general funds. As you know, the Board of County Commissioners 2 boards ago directed me and staff that we will fund a new replacement county courthouse entirely using general funds. That does have impacts. The board knew that at the time. You are all seeing that today. There are impacts to that. But that is the direction I received, and staff delivered on the direction of the board. Cost allocation changes. There actually no changes were made this year. The main model change was now 3 fiscal years ago. I did cap that no internal service allocated cost could increase higher than 3%. 3% was the cap, except for utilities, that is out of our control. And if a department or office added more staff, that does impact their allocations. If they have more employees, that's more computers and more things that they need, so that would have increased. I constantly hear questions, criticisms, complaints about allocated cost is too high. Well, it costs money to run the organization. It's not an external-facing service in most cases, but it supports internal services that do support the external operating departments to provide the services they provide. I'm aware of the concerns of the board and the budget committee and internal departments on the rising cost of allocated costs. I hope we can have that discussion, or you can have that discussion as a budget committee. I'm willing to look at the model again, although the model is pretty solid, but I know that there's limited resources and your priority is to fund external-facing public services, yet we need the internal services to help provide those external services. We'll have a larger conversation about that in the coming days. We are one of the few, if only, local governments in the Portland metropolitan region that has a solid budget. That is thanks to you, Budget Committee members, and the Board of County Commissioners, and our staff that have been really, really tightening the belt every year for all 7 years I've been your county administrator. For departments that receive general funds, they each received a 3% increase in the amount of general funds they had in the prior fiscal year, using their adopted budget as a base. Almost every department was able to live within that means, although it was very, very difficult, and departments tightened the belt so tight there's no more room to tighten, but they did. However, there were 6 departments and offices that could not live within the 3% increase, so I am proposing an additional amount of general funds to those departments and offices. You can see it in the tabs, but I'll tell you, and this is all based on the adopted budget for the current year. The County Council's office received a 9% increase in general funds, and the rest are all elected officials. The Assessor's Office, an 8% increase in general funds. The District Attorney's Office, a 7% increase in general funds. The County Clerk's Office, a 5% increase in general funds. The Sheriff's Office, a 5% increase in general funds, but asterisk, that was the adopted budget from a year ago. The Board of County Commissioners did authorize a supplemental budget, adding $4 million to the current fiscal year so the Sheriff's Office could finish the fiscal year without having to reduce any filled FTEs. If you calculate that, then really the sheriff only got a 1% net increase in general funds. I want to call that out, to be fair. And the Treasurer's Office received a 4% increase in general funds rather than 3%. So again, those are all elected officials and County Council's office that just could not use the resources they had at 3%. I am proposing additional funds for those offices. With that, there are 2 offices that are still struggling with that amount of funds I have proposed. First is the District Attorney's Office is still short approximately $500,000. The District Attorney will tell you about that tomorrow during his budget presentation. He does not have to lay off any staff, but he has to reduce the services he provides if that gap is not filled. The Sheriff's Office is still $3.6 million short, and due to that is proposing 16 filled positions be eliminated as of July 1st. Those are real people with real people and real jobs. And so the sheriff needed $3.6 million, which I felt I could not offer based on having the budget be in the black for 30 years as the county code requires me. However, you're going to hear more about the budget forecast here in just a second. The budget forecast I used to make my funding decisions back in April The forecast changes, it constantly changes, and a long story short, you're gonna hear all about it in a moment. There is some room in the general fund of, guess what, approximately $3.6 million. That does not put the forecast in the black, does not put the forecast in the black for 30 years. You could choose to use that 3.6 million, give it right back to the sheriff, in which case she would not have to lay off any staff. Not in the red. Not, what did I say? Not, oh my gosh. That was a test, thank you. Not in the black, not in the red. It is in the black, thank you. In the black, let me restate. We're in the black for 30 years. There's approximately 3.6 million. We remain in the black for 30 years if you were to spend that 3.6 million for the proposed budget. But you have choices. You could give that, some of that to the district attorney's office. You could give some or all of that to the sheriff's office. And Board of County Commissioners, you know this, you spent $5 million this current fiscal year in unbudgeted funds that we took from the county contingency fund to cover. And you'll hear more about that. We used a beginning fund balance, so we didn't have to cut anything, and it all balanced out, and we're still in the black for 30 years. However, you could have a little more extra cushion to save for unexpected and unanticipated needs throughout the fiscal year. So all to say is, even though we have a solid, financially healthy proposed budget, you still have some tough choices to make over the following days. But I want to call that out. You'll hear more about that here in a moment, and I'll answer your questions shortly. So the general fund for the proposed budget, the total amount is approximately $195.5 million. That is the discretionary funds. You as a budget committee decide how you wish to spend. The investments to public safety total, which includes the sheriff's office, district attorney's office, juvenile department, disaster management, and the courthouse payment, is 69% of the general fund. Counting all those departments, you are spending 69% of the general fund of $195 million on public safety focused efforts. I say this with all sincerity, how much more can you give to public safety? Unless you want to do nothing else in county government. I'm being a bit facetious there, but you're giving a lot. When people say you don't support public safety, I respectfully disagree. You as a board and budget committee are. However, I don't budget by giving departments percentages, and the board has not directed me to do that to date. So the sheriff's office, you'll hear tomorrow, used to get 55, 56% of the county general fund. It has slowly been reduced over the years for a multitude of reasons. This year, the proposed budget is 44% of the general fund, just the sheriff's office. Again, yes, Cindy.
44% of the total funds,
All right.
not general fund. It's much higher.
Thank you. All right. We'll talk about that in a moment. Please let me finish and we'll answer, and you correct me after I'm done. Thank you. So all to say is the board is not, unless you want to, I'm open to that if each department gets a certain percentage of general funds, frankly, that'd be a lot easier. But that's not how I propose the budgets. Because board priorities change during the year. Your strategic plan changes every 2 years. But that's certainly something for this committee to discuss. All right, with that, I talked about the general fund. The general fund contingencies is required to be at 5%, which is approximately $23.6 million. That is budgeted so. General fund reserves is required to be at 10%, which is $21.3 million. That is budgeted as so in this proposed budget. The proposed full-time employee count for the entire county organization is 2,453 employees. That is approximately 44 lower FTEs than last fiscal year, and that is due to Health, Housing, Human Services, and the Sheriff's Office reductions. ORS 294.331 and County Code Section 2.209.060 names me the budget officer for all departments and offices led by elected officials and special districts, including the ELED, which we clarified that earlier today. All right, quickly, I want to recap the budget motions the Budget Committee made last year. It looks like this. It is in the packet that was emailed to you last week and also handed to you today at your table, kind of near the front of the packet. In particular, page 2. Two motions this committee made last year I want to recap. First was you direct staff to codify the 30-year forecast as a requirement of the county code, and an annual outside audit of the 30-year forecast be required. That is done. As I mentioned, County Code Chapter 2.16 has been adopted, and I'm doing exactly what you asked me to do. So that is finished. Second was that the Finance Department conduct a monthly analysis of Clackamas County Sheriff's Office financials beginning July 1, 2025, with a monthly report to the Board of County Commissioners analyzing revenues and expenditures. I'm jumping ahead, and report back to the board by November 1st, 2025. whether to transfer Sheriff's Office financial functions and expenditure oversight to the Finance Department effective January 1, 2026. I did not do this. It was not on purpose. Here's what we did. The Finance and the Sheriff's Office finance team do meet regularly, and timeliness and accuracy has been improved greatly in all aspects of the Sheriff's Office reporting and all financial functions. The Sheriff's Office has made significant headway in several areas, including the past issues that this committee has addressed. I also asked another department director who has no dog in the fight to review the Sheriff's Office finances as another leader at the county that produces budgets, and found that there really was nothing done incorrectly or wrong. There was some miscommunications that we have since addressed, but I did not report back to the board by November 1st, and I'm sorry about that. I've talked to the board of the reasons why, but I do want to report back to the committee. That was not done. Again, I'm confident and pleased with the progress we've made, and I don't see the need for the county finance department to take over the Sheriff's Office financials. But that's my opinion. I'm happy to hear more from you at this meeting. All right, I'm wrapping it up here. I want to thank the staff that have worked on this proposed budget for actually 8 months prior to this date. In particular, the finance team led by Elizabeth Comfort, finance director, Sandra Montoya, budget manager, Cindy Becker, project coordinator in my office, Megan Peterson, Katie Combs, Yan Zhang from the budget team. All right, now your protocols. You have received a proposed budget. It is now yours. I take nothing personal. You can change it all you wish. You may accept, reject, or modify this proposed budget. A reminder of your authorities. Each committee member has 1 vote and equal authority. A quorum of this committee is 6 members. 6 of you must be present to conduct business. Any changes to this proposed budget requires a majority vote, which is 6 out of the 10 of you. So 6 of you must approve any changes you wish to make. That holds true even if less than 10 of you are present. 6 is the number for both a quorum and to make any changes. I remind your budget committee members you are prohibited from discussing or deliberating on the budget outside of budget committee meetings. If you do make any changes to the proposed general fund, I say this every year, you tell me what you want to cut elsewhere to make those adjustments. Although I just told you, you have approximately $3.6 million if you choose to fund other programs this current year without impacts to other programs or offices. I'm about to answer your questions, but after I'm done, Sandra and Elizabeth are going to present the budget forecast with more detail that I alluded to. Then, starting tomorrow, Wednesday, you will hear presentations from each department and office on their proposed budget. They will answer your questions. Tomorrow night at 6 p.m. is public comment here in the room to hear from the public. This Thursday, you will begin deliberations and you will stay until you're finished. We will feed you, but you'll stay until you're finished. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, if it goes that long, we'll stay as long as it needs to take. With that, that is my message. I'm happy to answer any questions you have about my budget message. Thank you.
And since you mentioned saying the same thing you say every year, that reminds me, before we move on to questions, I would just like to note that I have a potential conflict of interest because I work for a company that does business with the county. I've been told by county council I could announce that, but I don't have an actual conflict since we're advisory. But I want to get that out there while I'm thinking about it. And now I saw Ben first. I don't know. Okay. Ben, Commissioner West.
Jumping right into allocated costs. My question is, it's my understanding, yes, you have to have allocated costs because it costs money to do business in the county from as a whole, and you have to pay for those expenses. However, it's my understanding that if we wanted to have somebody from facilities paint a wall, it's like 4 to a bajillion times more than if we just hired a licensed contractor from the community to come in and paint that same wall, or to hang blinds, or to do some basic services within the county. So sometimes allocated costs seem like they may be a lot more than they need to be if we had the ability or choose to also utilize the services of the private sector to save taxpayers' dollars and precious general funds. Can we have somebody explain to the public why that's the case?
Sure, I'll start. And some of that is true, some of that is a myth. Yes, our facilities department, they charge a cost that in some cases might be higher than if it was done externally by the private sector. We're paying the fully loaded cost of an employee to do that service. We already talked about that, the fully loaded cost, which is calculated in their hourly rate to perform the service. I wish Greg Geist was here from WES. I don't want to speak for him, but he says They can't do it cheaper externally because they've tried. It's overall less expensive to use our internal services than external. But yeah, some things cost more because of what I just said, the fully loaded cost of an employee. We could look at privatization. That's a loaded word when I say that. Our represented employees will fight you on that. But certainly, it's about cost efficiency and what best serves the public. So I'm absolutely willing to look at that and the finance facilities in particular on how those costs are spread out.
Commissioner Savas?
Yeah, a few things. I just want to clarify, and I'm asking the question, I'm not stating that I know, but the language about the Budget Committee can't talk about things outside without being, in public. My understanding of that interpretation is that's a quorum. That's not two individual members talking. Correct or not correct?
Yes, I mean, you individually can talk to each other. You certainly should not meet as a quorum, but you should not, quote, deliberate, like, well, I'm going to vote yes or no on this department. Are you going to vote yes or no on that department? Similar to commissioners, you know that. That's called serial deliberation. You should not be doing that, even if it's just one-on-one. But you definitely can talk about general themes or ideas about the budget. Yes, of course.
Okay. The other thing that came up in our prior conversation that I just pointed out, I don't know if staff can make a change. I know it's a lot of paper. But what I pointed out in all the budgets is that the fiscal year 25-26 is showed as amended and showed as projected, but it's not shown as it was initially approved. So it's not showing what the budget was, just what the amended budget was. So I would like to see that. I don't know how else we really track how well our departments are holding the line, right? And again, I think that's important. The other one is that I think we also talked at our last ELED thing about line iteming general fund or Fund 100 expenses or departments, dollars. So is that a change that could be made in such? And my obvious question is, I want to point out something that staff pointed out to me. If we started doing that today, we're not really, is it easy to get actuals for each individual line going back? Is that automatic? Can they be filled? Okay. So in the example for ELED, we didn't have that. We had blank spots, right?
That is because they did not budget. And if they are not charging currently to that line, that would not show an actual. So we can only provide the information that is actually existing in the accounting system.
Okay, so how do we move forward? How do we correct that?
We would encourage departments to charge throughout the year, each month appropriately in each individual accounting lines.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of difficult to explain. So we have professional services and then we have some detailed professional services. They could choose to charge everything just to the generic line and then we wouldn't have the detail, but then they could project at the end of the year what each of those, like contracted services or janitorial, those could be. Finance does not control how they account for each expenditure. We just make sure it's professional services appropriate. We always provide guidance. Like earlier, what Patrick had said is like they made the change from doing generic to expanding out to more details. That was a recommendation last year during the budget process. So it's really the practice of the department that drives the history and the tracking of those expenditures.
I guess that's what leads me to conclude or wonder with the motion that we made last time as a budget committee about, considering taking the budget over, but as the administrator explained, he did not choose to do that. But there again, how do we actually see actuals on the line items if they're not essentially entered and posted?
If I may, my understanding with the example you brought up about the ELED is that the impression I got from that was that they are putting it in, it's just living in the general fund. No?
I think what you could do through direct the staff in the budget manual to require departments, if you're expecting to have an expenditure in a line item, you have to have a budget for it. that is what becomes troublesome when there's no budget, but you see charges and a projection, it's like you have no idea where they came up with that because there's no budget for it. And that's what you saw in the ELED. There was many, many lines that had no budget.
I mean, what I heard them say is that they were required by law to submit a balanced budget, so they didn't put anything in there so that they could balance? Is that what
They're not
happened?
mutually exclusive. The county has to provide a balanced budget, but they said because they had to make cuts to balance their budget, that's where they took them. It was hard, I didn't understand. But I think the reality is, if you know you're going to have charges in an area, then you should have a budget for those charges.
Even if it's not balanced.
Right.
We need to see it.
All right, let's let Gary respond, then Elizabeth and Cindy, then we'll get back to Commissioner Savas.
All right, in reverse order. So yes, the solution, Commissioner, is I put it in the budget manual, which I can do. And then if departments don't meet it, I bring it to the Board of County Commissioners. And that's holding everyone accountable. So that's one way of doing that, which I can do that immediately. Second, the line item budget for each department. You may recall, those of you that have been here a while, that's how you used to get your budget books. Line item for every department. This was a 900-page document. At that time, the board said, this is too much. Give us a higher level at the fund level, which we've been doing ever since. That doesn't mean we can't go back to line items. But the question is, do you all want to see a line item for every single department? It'll be about 1,000 pages that we can print for you overnight. But I need to know that right away. But before you answer that, final question. Fiscal year 25-26 approved budgets, yes. We print out a document for the board, just lists every department, their adopted budgets from last July. And then you can use that as a reference to the documents that are in the tabs. Can we do that, staff?
Yes, we can. And I just wanted to, and I appreciate wanting to know what the changes are throughout the year. And I wanted to remind folks, when we do have a supplemental budget, we've changed that adopted budget. So even though it's different than the original, it is now the approved, recognized with the state, that budget for that line or that department.
They want to see where they started out.
Yeah, no, I totally appreciate that. But the other thing I wanted to just clarify is prior to today, the budget presentation, where it becomes a public document, Oregon budget law says you cannot meet amongst budget committee members prior to that. You can speak with the administrator or budget staff, but within the budget committee members, you need to refrain from having conversations regarding the budget document that you receive.
Okay, understood. So just to close the loop on that, just going to share this. When we had the supplemental budget a week or so ago, I expressed that usually we're just acknowledging new revenue or maybe a little bit overage here. So it was always new revenue here or delay here. But this cycle, more than ever, it was basically overruns or basically exceedances that required more revenue. So I think it would be informative now more than ever, knowing what's ahead of us, to be able to see that. And if we had the initially approved budget of 25-26 and the amended, that supplemental budget would show up, right? And anything else that maybe didn't meet the 10% threshold, right?
Yeah, the 10% is when you have to have a public hearing, like we
Right.
did this last week. Right.
You good? Commissioner Helm.
I don't need to see, that's me, I don't need to see a line item for everything unless they haven't balanced their budget. I think I only want to see the anomalies. I think then if they've come to us or to you, Gary, with a balanced budget, we're good with that, but I only want to see the ones where we've had to do supplementals or where numbers are just not adding up. That's me.
Commissioner West.
Let me just,
Go ahead.
for the budget process, they have to, by law, submit a balanced budget.
Right.
So no, okay, jump in, Commissioner West. So no, I don't want to necessarily see a line item for every single budget. Mary Romba's in the room and her budget is incredibly complicated, very sophisticated. We never have any issues with it. It's dialed in, it's professional, and it's trusted. I don't need to see a line item from Mary Ramba. A different department that says it's very complicated may have years of discrepancy and audit discrepancies and other things where trust is lacking. And so the public members and the elected body needs to have more oversight on that specific budget. And it may take years to make it right because they're oppositional to us. But that would be an item, a line item that I do want to be able to see because it's our responsibility to hold that department accountable. So it's a case-by-case scenario on what allows us to operate effectively and provide that necessary oversight. So that's what I would say is generally, we don't have that issue with most departments, but sometimes we do. And that's where maybe a line item is more appropriate so we can really look under the hood and see what's going on.
Chair Roberts?
Yeah, Gary had a few questions there. I'll try and, I think I'll start with the first one Commissioner West talked about, excuse me, the allocated costs. And I think in respect to some concerns we've received from some of our contract cities, actually even recently from the library. Again, I think it's trying to be transparent and explain what those costs are. I agree with you, Gary. I think some of the costs are accurate and some of them perhaps are a little bit in question. So I think it's just a good habit of reviewing that, putting together a group that could just be an open, unbiased group that listens to it and we take a look at it. So that would be my recommendation or suggestion. And then, well, I don't want to see every page. I can tell you, I mean, I would encourage, and I'm not sure about the citizens on the budget committee, but months ago, I got copies of the proposed budgets that you provided, spent a lot of time, because I think if we're almost wait to the very end, a lot of times, this will take days and days, so part of which is the more we can get educated up front. I know it sounds like according to some of the records laws, you can't discuss it, right, once it's distributed, right? So, but it doesn't mean if even some of the proposed ones we could look at, right? Correct?
Yes, you may, yes.
So anyway, I felt like that was really helpful, seeing it way early on and might be an idea. So I think that I wanted to respond to kind of those two things. And then kind of to the percentage, I would be opposed to just doing a flat percentage across the board. I would rather actually hear from the departments as to what that impact is going to be, so I really understand it. But I will, again, I'm going to be very frank. I do think we need to look across the board at all the funding because this is the beginning of another year that's going to come. And I think the more we're kind of looking ahead, the better off. So I would be open to hearing what the impact is from department heads. Thanks.
Ms. Montoya?
Andrew, if you would be so kind, I just wanted to clarify something because this was asked about where the departments code their expenses. And I wanted to make sure that you were aware in the budget manual, our instructions. So the budget manual gets sent to every department. We do a kickoff in January. We walk through the highlights of the budget manual, and then we have a training for anyone who wants to participate that actually goes through the budget manual page by page. And in one of those pages, what we tell the departments is that the expense is what guides where they're going to code it. So and we have the exact wording that you'll see in the budget manual up on the screen. But I just wanted you to be aware that if there was no budget in an account code, but suddenly the department had expenses there, the expectation would be that they would code in the correct expense code that most closely matches the expense. And the example that we provided was fuel. There is a fuel line item, so even if they budgeted it in vehicle expenses, because fuel is most closely related to what the expense actually was, fuel is where they would code it. So that's just an example for you that may be a time where you see zero budgeted for fuel, but there's an actual expense. because some of those are very closely correlated. So I just wanted to share that because that it's not an automatic that just because a department doesn't have a budget in that line item, it's a bad thing. Sometimes it's just an interpretation of an account code versus where you actually post it.
Ms. Rader?
This is going to sound simple-minded, but I think if I was going to look at line items, I would only want to see line items where you actually have control over the expenditure. So for example, that might be, okay, capital expenditures, or personnel services broken down to those items, or that department that you wanted to look at and you actually can do something about it. It doesn't make sense to, go through every little thing, but if, 87% of the general fund budget is personnel services and in one particular department, and a lot of that is the benefits or something you can control, then it makes sense to look at it, but it doesn't. I just don't have enough time to look at every single thing. I think we have to kind of decide on those two things.
Got it.
That's my opinion.
Commissioner Savas?
Yeah, Andrew, could you go back to the slide that had the purple bars when the administrator was laying out the present? I want to talk about the percentages again. Not again, but I want to just point out something. Is there a pie chart that shows that split? There we go.
Chart.
So I just want to just say that part of the reason that probably all the departments saw a smaller percentage of the total budget of general fund is because of the courthouse payment. That wasn't there before, so now you're shifting 15 million away from everything. And if you took that 15 million, that line out and plugged it back in where it go, all those percentages would grow. So you cannot factor percentages as a guide, especially when you have a situation like that. 2 years ago, we did not have that number.
It's 17, actually, we were wrong.
What's that?
It's 17 million, we were
16,
wrong.
990.
We thought it was 15 the last couple
I know,
of
that
weeks.
was the other thing I wanted to bring up too,
So
right?
much money.
I was on the presumption that year one would be 15 million.
That's
Now
what we
I'm
all
seeing
thought.
it's
Yeah.
17.
Year one was 15. It has a cost escalator each year. Staff, including me, didn't message that very, very well, but year one was 15. It's a small increase every year after that,
For 30 years.
for 30 years.
So it's not 2 million every year, I hope.
No, but it is a percentage. Do you know offhand, Elizabeth or Cindy?
Compound then?
It's the CPI, the debt payment is fixed for all 30 years. The maintenance, the operation and material maintenance costs does go up by CPI, and we receive that number June 15th of every year for the following year. So it's averaged under 3%. I think we've had 1.8, we've had 2, I think it was 2.8 maybe this last year. Yeah, and you'll see it in the forecast. But we knew that and we factored that in.
Yeah, that's a painful reminder, because I supported the courthouse, I just didn't support the way we funded it, and that very thing was one of my concerns, which could easily escalate above $20 million payments, by the way, in a number of years, potentially, just depending on what inflation is.
Chair Roberts?
Yeah, I just remember seeing a spreadsheet on that it didn't escalate that fast. It had a projection over the years, because I remember it was 15 for quite a while, and then it started escalating. So obviously something was added to it, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think there was something unanticipated that needed addressed, whether it was the yard maintenance or something that also added to it. Because I think that is higher than what was.
Yes, Elizabeth, I gotta put my card up. So electricity, the utilities, and the landscaping.
That's right.
So we did find that there were a couple other identified maintenance that we needed to cover as a county that were not included in the O&M.
Commissioner West.
It's very clear and apparent that we needed a courthouse, but we decided to fund it the most expensive way possible. Previous boards chose to do this in a way that was very, very expensive. And now we're all feeling kind of that pinch now and still reeling from some sticker shock on that. And now the current board and future boards have to figure out how to navigate through those decisions, so it's not going to be easy. But I would question whether to use that vehicle to fund any public projects ever again, now that we've lived through this one.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I love you, Commissioner West. You know that. This was the most financially sound method to form the courthouse. It's cheaper than if you would have gone to the GO bond, if you would have asked the voters, any other form of payment. And you were not on the board at the time, Commissioner, when this was discussed with the board. This is a less expensive method. It is still very expensive. It's the least expensive method to do it. So I joke about this, but I'm serious. You could always go to the voters and say, we want you to fund this through a general obligation bond. You know, the voters will say, hell no, but you could always ask them that to reinstate the money to the county. Again, staff did what the board directed us to do 2 boards ago. Thank you.
All right, I don't see any more questions. So before any come up, let's move. I think Elizabeth is up next, is that right?
Yeah, Elizabeth and Sandra to present the general fund forecast.
Yeah, I'm going to ask Sandra Montoya, our budget manager, to take us through the forecast, some high level, and then we can get into questions.
Okay, well, we're going to keep it, like Elizabeth said, high level, and we're going to just start on the far left so that you all see what is in the general fund forecast. First item, and in every financial report we give you, will be the beginning fund balance. The beginning fund balance is the accumulation of ending balance over multiple years, over the whatever time horizon we've got. The next section you've got is operating revenue. Obviously, the biggest revenue source there is taxes, and we watch that very closely. The next category is the operating expenses, and you're going to see things like personnel, materials and services, capital outlay. Materials and services does include cost allocations. So just be mindful of that. That's where cost allocations lives. You're going to see special payments, transfers out, and general fund support. General fund support, I'm going to remind you, is both an expense to non-D, that's where we receive the taxes and that's where we pay it out to departments, and to the departments, it's a revenue. So that's why you're seeing it. You're going to see it on both sides of that equation. Then we come to the non-operating, which is the courthouse. You all mentioned the O&M for the courthouse and the escalation. This is where you're going to see the escalation of that O&M. And you see, if I go to the first year that O&M has a figure, it was 3.5 million in fiscal year 25-26. By the time that's over, at the 30-year, we're at 5.6 million, 5,691,290 is that figure. Andrew, are you able to keep up with me? Okay. And then the next section is capital projects. So that is the general fund transferring to Fund 420. Those are projects that are multi-year and/or multi-funded for capital. So that's where we put them in Fund 420. And then we get to a net number of an ending fund balance. And the numbers that we talk about consistently is contingency. By policy, we currently have it set at 5%. Then we have reserves, which are set at 10%. And then the number that we track is that bottom line number of unappropriated ending fund balance. What we did, the strategy that we used to fund the courthouse was monitoring that unappropriated ending fund balance. And if you all remember, 4 or 5 years ago, we kept talking about the glide path. The glide path, we talked about that 30-year glide path, that we were trying to reduce costs as early as possible so that we would have the least amount of pain for the 30-year period. That's what we've been doing for the last 5 years. So this has been intentional, and we've been monitoring this 30-year unappropriated ending fund balance. So now that I've kind of walked through how to read this 5-year forecast, now I'm going to just go through some notes that I'd like for you to keep in mind as you review it. One is that this document is a living document, because you all ask us all the time, well, wait, how come this changed from the last time we saw it? And we say, well, it's because the last time it had XYZ in it. So the easiest way for you to know is that yellow bar that you're seeing on the top of your budget forecast. It tells you the as of date, and it tells you some key changes. So I can see right away this 25-26 has projections in it. What that tells me is that the last time you saw this, it had budgeted numbers. So between the budget and the projection, there are changes. And just like we go through every year, when we do the budget, it has this is all in, what we believe the costs are gonna be. By the time we get to the year end, if we've done our jobs right, we haven't used every dime of that budget. There's a little bit of cushion in there, and so the projection typically looks better. Overall, we end up with a little bit better number on the bottom line. The next thing I see in that title is that 26-27 was the proposed budget, and it says the proposed budget is loaded. What that says is that the last time you saw this, 25-26 was budget, but 26-27 had assumptions built in it. It was what we believed, based on all those escalators, that 26-27 would be. Now, we have what the departments have submitted and what Gary has approved to come before you. So this has the proposed number, and it's a better number. So again, the title will tell you what version we're on. The second thing I want you to remember is that the forecast gets riskier the further out we go. So by that, I mean, right now, projected 25-26, pretty fairly dialed in. We're monitoring that every month. The department heads, the directors should be reducing their expenses if the revenue isn't coming in. If they're seeing some spikes somewhere, they should have reductions somewhere else. So we're counting on them to do their job and get these numbers so that these budgets come in line. Going out year one, we've built assumptions in it. If we had another COVID year, guess what? We'd be balling this up and throwing it in the trash because we have no idea what's going to come tomorrow. And of course, that gets even riskier the further out we go to the 30 year. All we can do is build in the assumptions. We trend those, so they're based on history, they're fairly sound. But again, if we had another COVID year, this would be garbage, and we would be starting over and bringing it back to you. The third one is the forecast we shared in February in 2026 included assumptions. What you have before you now is the proposed, and it's what the departments are requesting. And so with that, I'm going to highlight some differences. In February of 2026, we thought we were going to have an unappropriated ending balance. So that's that bottom number of fiscal year 25-26. We thought we were going to have 51.1 million. What you see before you now is 64.5 million. That's a big swing. So again, just keeping those things in mind, please. The next thing I want to highlight is that this forecast has 30 years of a positive ending balance, that unappropriated ending fund balance. It's all in the black. If there was any negatives, you would see that bottom line in a red, and that's what we're monitoring. Oh, yes, also, thank you, Elizabeth. Elizabeth is highlighting there is 30 years of data in between here that you're not seeing. We've collapsed it just because you all always remind us, like, we can't see these numbers because they're so tiny. So we've collapsed the data, and what you're seeing is years 1 through 5. You're seeing year 28. You're seeing year 29, which is the final payment for the courthouse, and then you see that bounce up in year 30, where the numbers greatly improve at the end. The other items we want to call out is year 27, 28, we have a debt balloon payment. So Commissioner Savas, this is for you, because you've reminded us every year, make sure that you're able to tag that, you can see it. Yes, the plan is to make that debt service payment as we are required. But then, in year 3 of this forecast, we have a payoff of debt that is optional. We can redeem it early and save ourselves, and I have a note, I want to say it's 1.2 million, if I'm remembering correctly, and I believe it's the 2012 debt service, and they're gonna give me that information shortly, I can guarantee that, so we can come back to that. And then the last item that we have is, while the desire is going to be to draw down this unappropriated ending fund balance, because there's a little bit of play, I will call out that in 25-26, and we're not even done with 25-26, but to date, we have had 5.2 million in unexpected cost increases. So when we came to you last year about this time, those marathon meetings we had so much fun with last year, since that time, we've had 5.2 million in unexpected costs. So again, I would just caution you, because I know that the desire is going to be, well, let's fund everything that has a gap. And I'm going to tell you right up front, we don't have enough money for that. So just caution, give yourselves a little bit of cushion, please.
27-28 is the balloon payment.
Oh, okay. So 27-28 is the 6.8 million balloon payment for the 2020 PDX Milwaukee Light Rail. And then the, what's the one time? Oh, and then 26-27 is 7.3 million of the 2012 PSB Sheriff's Training Center payoff.
PSB and training center.
Oh, PSB and Training and Sheriff's Training Center. So those are the two debts. So with that, I will pause. Gary, was there anything else I was supposed to cover?
You covered it, thank you.
Okay.
All right, thank you. And I guess I'll start off with a quick question. The ending fund, unappropriated fund balance here of 322, is that a result of the current 3.6 million flowing through the 30 years? I'm assuming.
So the 3.6 million that Gary spoke about has not been built into this yet. So that's money that is at play, and
And wouldn't impact this at all?
no, it will, but 3.6 million is what we have calculated that will keep you all in the black.
Right, right. So if we spend that 3.6 million, the 322 goes to about zero, right?
I want to say there's a couple million left, but it's crazy how little you have to change the budget now to have it escalate and eat up 5 million on the back end.
Yeah, no, that's what I understand. I just wanted to confirm my understanding was it looks big. It's not a large current dollar amount to make that disappear.
Correct. And the other thing I'll point out is 3.6 million is ongoing cost, which means that it gets escalated every year. One-time expenses are a little bit different because, again, they have one-time impact and that's it.
Yeah. Ms. Rader, I saw your card up. Did you have something you
No,
wanted
she
to say?
answered my question, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Savas.
So just to follow back up, so that 3.6 that's in here it's one time? No?
No, ongoing.
It's 3.6 all the way through when we're still in the black, and there's no red in between here in the years we can't see.
All in the black means everything's black, no red in between.
Ms. Rader.
Can you borrow from the risk, the uninsurance fund at all? Or self-insurance fund at all?
We would never recommend that.
I don't
That's
recommend
like
it either, but
bad,
you
bad.
can. But is it shown on any of these reserves? So
one is actuarials tell us how much we should have in the risk funds. Two is that an operating loan by budget law, has, I want to say, a 5-year cap, and then capital has a 10-year cap within internal. So they have to be pretty short-term needs. Yes, and it would be in another fund, yeah.
So is there, I just noticed there was like an $8 million transfer out of the fund this year, and the $8 million increase in the self-insurance fund for claims expense.
Oh, so the transfer in the self-insurance fund is for cost increases, so we're seeing claims expenses
Okay, so
that have
it is
spiked.
just strictly
And
claims.
yes. And part of that, I think, during COVID, we saw a real lull in the claims expenses, and the years after continued to be that way. Now it seems like it's coming back to normal.
Okay, thank you.
Elizabeth?
You're asking about the 3.6. I just wanted to share in year 15, if we were to add that additional $3 million expense ongoing, the lowest year would be year 15, and it would take that unappropriated ending fund balance to 2.3 million. So that is very skinny. So just be aware, it would still remain in the black, but it would only leave a cushion, I quote that, of 2.3 million.
I can't see your 15 on here.
No, it would, no. It's a very long spreadsheet, but that would be the number.
Now, that just, if I may,
Sure, then we'll go to Gary.
go ahead.
So we have this as a live Excel document, so maybe on Thursday as you deliberate, we can plug in numbers and show you the impact immediately on the forecast. So when that time comes, we can show you, what?
Oh, yes.
The peanut gallery, thank you.
We can
So-
do that, but that's our nightmare.
Well, but they get to make the decision, so we'll show you that. Any impact you make on a dollar amount, we can do that online, and you can see it. Thank you.
Being in accounting, it would be my nightmare as well. Did you have something else?
Yeah, my comment, and maybe some of you I've talked to over time have heard me say this, well, is that in the last year of doing this, and seeing different 30-year forecasts, we've seen a little bit of red, a whole lot of red, now no red, and I understand it's dynamic. I'm not questioning the numbers. I understand it's dynamic. But it does give me pause, right? I'm reluctant to bank on, knowing what just happened in a year, to bank on making an ongoing commitment, and then maybe next year everything changes wildly. So, one time is one thing, but I just reluctant after just the last year of watching this play out.
Okay.
That's all I have for now.
Any other questions? Or comments? All right, seeing none, we will adjourn until 8 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Thank you.